Hi everyone, I'm April, and you're watching the Tangled Cat Speaks. Yes, I'm back. It's been since the beginning of January since I last podcast, and here we are at the end of February 2022. So I kind of had a bit of a slump in my emotions and my knitting, and I just didn't have a whole lot to show you last month at the end of January. So I still really don't as far as knitting is concerned, but I'm gonna go ahead and talk to you about what I do have, and about some books that I have read, because that's really what's been kind of keeping me going these past few weeks, is just reading. You know what happens? Sometimes we go into emotional ups and downs and highs and lows, and I just been kind of in the slumps. So things just didn't get done as quickly as I had wanted, and I'm still not done with it. So what I'm talking about is my shawl. Before I get into that, I'm gonna reintroduce myself. My name is April. I'm from Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and I am a knitter and a crocheter, and I do love to read. I'm a retired 911 operator. Currently, now that I'm retired, I do volunteer work in a bookstore, and I just got another job that's part-time, and I'm really enjoying that. So let's go ahead and get into it. Okay, let's just go ahead and start with the shawl. This shawl, I was working on it the last time. This was supposed to have been a Christmas present for my son, but it's color work, knit flat, and it's just taking me forever. And sometimes I don't even want to work on this. I'm sorry, son. I love you. I adore you. And you are the reason why I'm continuing with this, because this is just not the thing for me. I love it. It's turning out so beautifully. And I am a little more than halfway done. It's gorgeous. I love the lace on either end. The color work is beautiful. It's, like I say, it's just a slow process for me. This is a technique that I am not super comfortable with, and it just takes me forever, and it slows me way down. And that's just the knit part. The purl side is even slower, so it just takes me forever. And because I know that it takes me about an hour to do only 4 rows, and it's not even that many stitches. I think there's less, that's the back side, less than 200 stitches across, and it takes me 4 hours to do, 1 hour to do 4 rows. Holding up the wrong fingers here. So it takes me forever, and each of these repeats is 32 rows. So one of these repeats of color is an 8-hour process. And of course, I'm not sitting 8 hours at a time doing it. So it's just taking me forever. And there are times where I'm just like, oh, I don't even want to do it. And that's where my knitting's done, because then I would feel bad if I picked up something else, because I really want to get this done for my son. His birthday is coming up now at the end of March. So I'm hoping that I can buckle down and get to it, but give me strength. Just give me strength. Send all your good vibes, because he really wants it. He's seen it. He knows what it looks like. He's excited about it. I just feel terrible that I'm not enjoying this, and I don't want to pick it up. It's beautiful. The pattern is the Oceania. And I'll put the name of the designer up here as well. It's beautiful, and the pattern is not difficult. It's just slow going for me. This is not my preferred technique. So I feel bad that I haven't gotten it done sooner, but I love you, son. So that's basically that. I'm still trying to, and I think that's some of the reason why I got lint in my eye, of course. Some of the reason why I was down was because I know that I'm behind and it just kind of makes me feel bad. That is exactly why I don't do commissions, because sometimes I'm going to be knitting something that I don't like to work on. It might be beautiful, but the knitting of it itself is not what I enjoy. And for me, knitting and crochet should be joyful. And the joy that I'm getting out of this is knowing that my son is going to love it. And I'm going to feel a sense of accomplishment, I think, when I'm finally done. But right now, it's a slog for me, and I'm just trudging through it. I feel bad. I feel bad for feeling that way. But I do. I'm being honest. And it is what it is. And I did break down and do a couple of quick crochet projects just because I needed to feel like I could finish something, because it's just taking me so long to do that. I needed something quick. So I had a project that I was working on that I was holding 2 strands of is it fingering weight? I can't remember, but I was holding 2 strands of yarn together, and I'll put all the information up here or somewhere for a project. And I ended up frogging that, and then I was like, oh, well, now I need to separate these strands. And I got about halfway through and it was fine, but then things started to get tangled, and I just got bugged and just cut it and said, I'm gonna just have to work with that little bit as a double strand in something else, or I'm gonna end up throwing this whole thing away. It's fun to work with double strands or multiple strands, but sometimes you change your mind and getting them separated by yourself is hard. But so I ended up coming up with this thing, which is like a little ear warmer. It's crochet, and it's basically a crossover kind of extended stitch. So I would skip 1 stitch, double crochet 3, and then do another double crochet in that skipped stitch around the other 3. And so it creates this long loop. So it's here, and it's also on the back side. So it is kind of a reversible pattern. This is just something that I kind of made up along the way. I've done this stitch in the past, so it's kind of one that I know, I'm familiar with. And actually the way I've done it in the past is doing it the cross row and then double crocheting back, just normal, and then doing the cross row again, and then all of the loops slant the same direction. But I decided to skip that intermediate row, or maybe it's a single crochet row in between. But either way, there was normally like an intermediate row in between, or a separating row, and then you do the crossed section again, so they all go in the same direction. But I took that out, and what that did was I was doing the cross section on the back side, so they ended up slanted the other way, so now they kind of zigzag. But what happened is, because I'm making it to be worn this direction, it kind of made this, and I thought that looked really cool. So I was basically just trying to use up this yarn, this little bit of yarn that I had left. So I just made it as wide as I thought would work. And then I crocheted, I figured I would crochet. I was going to make a cowl initially. I'm like, well, there's enough there. I think I can make a cowl, and it could just be, you know, like just a closed cowl, a loop, and just hang there. But I didn't have enough. And I thought, oh, is that going to stretch enough to maybe fit my ears? And sure enough, it does. And this little bit here, after I seamed it together, I did seam it in, like I did a twist, 180-degree twist, and then I sewed it together. And then I had a huge long tail left, so I just wrapped it around and covered where I seamed it. And that worked out pretty well. So it kind of looks a little like a bow. And I'm going to put it on, even though it's going to mess up my hair. But I love it. It's super cute, and it's super tight on my head. Like, not uncomfortably tight, but it stays. It stays much better than, oh, it's so cute. I love it. I might just leave this on. keeps my ears warm. It stays right where I want it. It doesn't slide like beanies do. And I don't know what the difference is because I put beanies on and eventually they just come up. But I love this so much. And I'm glad that I ended up having that mishap with the yarn that I was trying to separate, and it turned into this. So I'm really loving it. It's gonna show a little bit up there, but yay. And it was just something that I did. It took me maybe 2 hours to get it fully done, and it was just like a nice little because I'm still working on that, and I'm going to be working on that shawl for a while, and I needed something quick. And then a few more weeks went by and I needed something else to do, and I was going through all of my acrylics that I just have like a little bits of this and that, because I don't buy acrylics as much anymore unless I really need them for a specific project, and I haven't needed it in a while, so I don't have very much, and I have a lot of leftovers. So I found, I think I might have a picture of them before I started working on them. If I do, I'll put a picture of what these yarns looked like before I got started, but the result ended up being this blanket. And it's a baby blanket size. And all of this was done just kind of on the fly, just trying to figure out if I had enough of each color to do what I wanted. So I was weighing my yarn and separating up the balls and everything. And I just ended up coming up with this crochet square. And I did just a normal square here. And you can see that that particular colorway was like a longish kind of color. Each color went over multiple stitches, and it just then faded into the next color and the next. So I did those in the centers. And then here I kind of switched it up because this particular yarn I had less, that's the one I had the least of. And so I did kind of like a moss stitch in there. It was like single crochet, chain one, single crochet, chain one, single crochet, chain one, all the way across. And I did that for a couple rows with rows of this weird brown beige color that I had. And I don't even like this color because it's too much like skin tone to me, and I don't know, I just don't like it. But I had tons of it. I know this one was Knit Picks Brava worsted. I think it was Brava worsted. The other ones, I don't know what they are. They're kind of shiny, so I'm thinking they might be Caron Simply Soft, also worsted. But I can't find these colors anywhere else. I've been looking online so I could get the colorway names, but I don't know what they are. But so this one and this one, I think they're similar in feel and the way that they're shiny to Caron Simply Soft. And then I did the big border in double crochets, and then I added some more of the center color is what I have up here again in that seeds moss stitch kind of thing all the way around the square. I added one single crochet row in the solid color, and then as the border, after I did another row of this color here all the way around as a border, did another solid row, and then this here is reverse single crochet, or it's also called crab stitch. And when I say reverse single crochet, it's very easy. If you can do a single crochet, you can do this border, this edging. But you do the single crochet as normal, but instead of going to the stitch to the as you would consider going to the forward stitch, and for me, the way that I crochet is to the left, the stitch to the left. I know that there are some people who are left-handed and they stitch the other direction. So that's why I'm saying if you're normally going forward, that next stitch, instead of doing that, you go to the one that's behind and it kind of twists the single crochet around and it creates this wrapped look. See, let me try it in the darker color so you can get a better look at it. Excuse me, I'm very stuffy and my eyes are puffy. Allergies are happening. So you see it's kind of wrapped and it just creates a really easy border all the way around. Super fun, super easy. It's one of my go-tos because I don't have to think about it. So I ended up with this baby blanket, and I don't know that I love it, and I might just, it's not for anybody in particular. I would work on it an hour here, 30 minutes there, and it took me less than a week to get this done. But it wasn't like I was working on it all the time because I was feeling guilty about the other one, about the shawl, so I would like put that down. But when I was feeling like overwhelmed, I would pull this out, and it got done super, super quick. It was done on, I think this was done on a K hook, US K. So it's at a pretty loose gauge for worsted, I guess. But I just really wanted to get something done quick. So that's why I was doing it with such a big hook for that yarn. But that's really all I've got done as far as yarn is concerned. I haven't been doing anything else. I'm trying to not think about other projects because I'm starting to get that I want to start something new, and I'm trying to not because I really, really want to get that shawl done for my son. But what I did do for the first time ever, I ordered Pom Pom Quarterly magazine. Most of the time I see these and I'm just like, I used to get the interweave knits? I used to get those pretty regularly, and they would be, they were quarterly as well. You would get 4 a year. And I had tons of them, and I never made anything out of them. And I ended up giving those away several years ago because I had, I think, 4 years worth of those magazines, and I never made anything out of them. But this one, it's been a while, like I said, since I've ever wanted to get another magazine. But look at how pretty these are. Some of these are just done at a very loose gauge and they're very open and airy. And I thought that would be really cool to make something to just wear over a tank or a camisole or even just like a sleeveless dress or something. And then this one is one of the heavier kind of ones. But I love everything in here. I think there's only one pattern in here that I love the look of it, but I wouldn't do it because it's a lot. It looks like a lot of intarsia, and I won't do intarsia. There's even a pattern for socks in here, but most of them are tops. It's like sweaters. Like this one looks just super cozy and comfy, and they're all something that they're in size ranges that would include my size, and I'm a pretty big size. So I was very, very happy about that. There are so many of these that I would love to wear, like this one, not a yellow fan, but I love how open and airy, and I love that it's got a collar. And there's another one, and this is the color that I would love to do it in. There's another version they did with the blue. I'm showing too much of the words. Oh my gosh, and this one. Oh my goodness, I love these. I'm trying to not show too much. This is so difficult. But I love it, and I am super, super happy with the purchase. I think that I just got to buckle down and actually make from the books that I have. I think I've got 3 or 4 books of patterns, and I know I meant to do that. I think at the beginning of last year I meant to do something from another book, a small book of like maybe a dozen patterns. And I never got around to it. So maybe this year is the year that I could work maybe from both of those. Who knows? Gotta find a plan. So that's almost 20 minutes of me rambling about doing hardly anything. But what I did do during that time, like I said, I did a lot of booking. And I say that because I didn't just read, I did a lot of audiobook. And I'm not going to list everything because I did about 20 books in January and about, not 20, about 10 in January and about 10 in February. And I'm not going to list all of them because that's a lot. But the main ones that I'm going to talk about, let's see, we did Frankenstein in February because we're doing classics every month. And December was War and Peace that I talked about. And then that kind of rolled over into January because new people were jumping on at the end of the read along. And they wanted to extend that so that they have a chance to experience it and get all of the feedback and comments and back and forth. All of the things that happen in a read along with other people. So they extended that one through January. And then in February, we did Frankenstein. And that's the second time that I've read Frankenstein, but it's still such a good story, and it trips me out that she was only 17 when she wrote that. And it's such a good story. And if you've never read Frankenstein, and all you know is Frankenstein from pop culture, very different, has almost nothing to do with the way pop culture has made it out to be. But it is so, so good. I think the closest adaptation that I've ever seen is Mary Shelley's Frankenstein with Kenneth Branagh, and it was Robert De Niro who played the monster. I think that's probably the closest adaptation, even though it does take its own little twists and turns. Oh, Helena Bonham Carter's in that too. I love her. I love her so much. Really good movie, and it's the closest, but it is still a little bit different from the book. But the book is so good. So we read that as our classic. In March, I'm going to be doing this one, Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. And I've never read this. I've only recently heard about it. And from what I hear, this was written in 1932. And it's right around the time when a lot of technology was, a lot of things were starting to be very new. On here you can see there's a picture of camera. Just a lot of new and exciting technology going on at that time. And in this book, he kind of talks about how that technology is taking over our lives, from what I understand. And I thought, wow, this is kind of probably relevant today. So let's see. And I hear that it kind of is amazing to read even today, almost 100 years later. What is this? 1932, so 90 years ago. And this is apparently still pretty relevant. So I'm excited to read that. So that's the classics. Let's see. In January, I also started another series, read along. I'm doing a lot of read alongs, so there's a lot of it. But like I said, I'm not going to tell you all of it because that's just crazy. But one of the read alongs I started is The Dark Tower by Stephen King. I love Stephen King. I grew up on Stephen King. I haven't read everything by him, but I did read these. I started reading Dark Tower and then I stopped, and I'll explain. Gunslinger. Read this, and this was before it was even going to be a series. He wrote this, and then it wasn't until like several years later that he wrote the next one and decided, oh, this is going to be a series. He expounded a lot upon it, but I loved Gunslinger. This was my January read for this series, and I still loved it. It's been 30 years since I read it, and 35 years, and oh man, I had so much fun with it. I zipped through this thing in just a couple of days because I loved it. I still loved it. It was amazing. Had such a good time with it. Then in February, we went to the second one, which is The Drawing of the Three. And I remember this being my favorite amongst the three of the series that I had read, and it still is. Oh, this one's even bigger than the other one. And I read them in about the same time. It didn't take me long to read this. I zipped through it. I've God, it's such a good book. It's so weird and I love it. And then it got weird. This is going to be for March. The third book is called Wastelands. Now, this is the last book in the series that I read. I think there's four more in the series that I didn't read because I quit after this one because this one was too weird for me. And again, this one was 30 years ago. This was written, I believe, in 1991. Yeah, 1991. And it was just Stephen King. You always hear Stephen King as the horror guy. And yeah, he does that, but not all his stuff is textbook horror. He sometimes does things that are kind of like mess with your brain, kind of scary. Not all of it is monsters and gore and dark small places. Some of it is just like he gets into your head and you're just like, what the heck? And this one totally felt like he was on drugs. Like I finished it and I don't think that I understood what I read. It was just too weird. I'm hoping that I understand it more now that I'm older. Like maybe closer to the age that he was when he wrote it. I don't know. Maybe I'll understand it, maybe not. But at the time, I just did not like it. And I thought, well, if this is the twist and turn that this series has taken, maybe I don't want to read the rest. But now I want to read the rest. So I'm gonna make it through Wastelands, and I'm gonna continue on month after month to get the other 4 read as well. Let's do Michael Crichton, because I told you I've been doing this big Michael Crichton read along. And when I started it, the only books that I had read in the past were Jurassic Park and Timeline. So we've been reading in publication order. And so in January, was it January? We did Lost World, which is supposed to be the sequel to Jurassic Park. I didn't like it. I would say that of the ones that I've read, that's probably my, down at the very bottom. There's 2 down at the bottom that could be kind of interchangeable as far as the least that I liked. Not to say that it was terrible, and I just didn't like it as much as the other ones. There were mostly I'm trying not to go on make this as long as possible, or I'm trying to shorten down my thoughts because I was very bugged by it. There were many things that I liked about the story. What I did not like was at the end of Jurassic Park, the original one, there is something that happens in that book that is very significant. And in the second book, Lost World, it's all undone. He just basically says, just kidding, that part never happened, and then moves forward. And I'm not going to say what it is, because it's also very different from the Jurassic Park movie. So if you haven't read the book, it's huge. So I'm not going to say what it is, but in the second book, Lost World, and that's literally how it's said. It's one sentence that basically just says, oh, you know that thing? Well, no, didn't happen. And then he doesn't explain why. He doesn't explain the how or anything. This book literally felt like he was told to make a second book because they wanted to make a second movie. And he didn't, it just felt like he wasn't in it, the whole thing. There's also in the second movie, Lost World, that involves another child character. And I think, well, and that child character is very different than the book as well, because in the book there's 2 children. And neither of those children are related to any of the main characters the way it is in the movie. But the thing that I hated about the book, children characters, and I'm still talking about Lost World, Jurassic Park, I loved those kids. They were written very well, even though they were annoying, but that's how kids are. He wrote those children very believably. These children, they're supposed to be 12, 2 12-year-olds. If he didn't specifically say that they were 12, you wouldn't think they were 12. It felt to me like he had already written the whole book, and then they said, well, you need to add a child element. So he picked 2 characters in the background and said, oh, you're 12. And he didn't do more than that other than label them as 12, because they felt like they were college age interns or something. Like they didn't feel right, and it was annoying through the whole thing. And then, you know, still in the back of my mind, there's that whole big, but the other thing that you tried to talk away, it still happened in the first book, and I'm not happy. So those were the two big things reasons why I didn't like the book. And a lot of it it didn't feel like he cared. It felt like he was just kind of riding off of the information from Jurassic Park, where all of his books feel like he did a lot of research and it's all new and exciting, you know, at the time that he wrote it. If everything always felt like he put in a lot of research and efforts into his books. And Lost World, it felt like he was kind of rehashing Jurassic Park, just giving it a little twist here and there. And then like I said, there was a couple of things that I feel like he was made to do for the sake of a movie franchise. And I'm just guessing at this point, I don't know, but that's what it felt like, and I didn't like it. So then I had to read the next book, which was Disclosure, and I loved it. It was really, really good. And that one was about, what do you call it? It was a big company, and the whole sci-fi part of it was, at that time, cell phones and virtual reality, and all that kind of thing was very new. But the whole premise of the story itself was sexual harassment in the workplace. And there was the twist on it was a male employee being sexually harassed by a female superior or supervisor or boss, or however you want to put it. Her status was higher than his, and she sexually harassed him, and he was not going to take it. So it was a really interesting twist, and it was very believable, in so much as I was very upset at certain characters and the way that a lot of things were. Oh, well, you're just a man. How could she sexually harass you? And I was like, oh, come on. Just the whole brushing it under the carpet. And it was a very good book. It created some strong emotions in me. And then after that, we did Airframe. That's about a airplane that crashes, and it ends up being people died. People are trying to figure out who's responsible, and so they're going after the company who built the plane. And then the company's doing all of their research, and they're like, well, no, we did this right, we did this right, we did this right, we did this right. Oh, here's this, but this wasn't our fault. This was the, what do you call it? The company who made that part. So they're responsible for that little part that created the whole problem. The whole plane, what we make is fine. What they did, what they gave to us was subpar, and that ruined it. And then they're like, well, you put the part in the plane, so it's still your fault. And no, but we were going off the premise that they're giving us quality product. So it's like a back and forth between that. And in the midst of it, there's this big sale. They're to gain a lot of money off of it, so they don't want this to get out. But the media does find out, and the whole, really the antagonist in this whole thing is the media, and how they're staging things to get views, and not necessarily the truth. And they will stage things and cut interviews in such a way that it goes into the mainstream media how they want to spin it. And it was like, oh, that's still kind of how that's happening today. So it was like, it was really a wow book for me. It was really good. It wasn't my favorite, but it was really, really good. So now in March, we're finally up to one of the other books that I had read previously and that I loved, which was Timeline. I was super, super excited about this one because I loved it. I'm so happy. This one does involve time travel, so very cool. It's really all that I got. I mean, there are other books, like I said, I'm doing, like I said, 10 books a month. I'm not going to list them all here. There's so many, and that's just crazy. Well, that's insane. So, you know, some of the books that I'm reading are super long, and some of them are crazy short. You know, the graphic novels were less than 100 pages each, and then you consider that that's mostly illustration. So, I mean, I'm reading a lot of things, but not all of them are this big. So don't go thinking that I'm like devouring these huge tomes. So I'm just really excited with a lot of these read-alongs that we're doing, just because it's opening up new things for me. And I really am in the background. Some of these books that I'm reading that I'm not talking about are parts of series of cozy mysteries that I've been reading already, and I'm just continuing on with them. I'm actually waiting for the latest in Carleen O'Connor's Irish series. It just got released. It's Murder on an Irish Farm. It just got released, and I'm waiting for the audio to come out to my library. Because I've done all of those ones on audio, and I love the Irish accent that the narrator does. So excited for that one. But that's it. I got nothing else. Sorry. I'm gonna try to post more, even though I don't have a whole lot, because I'm always going to have reading. I did do watching some shows and stuff. Oh, I watched All of Us Are Dead on Netflix, and I watched, this is why I don't talk about shows, because I don't remember what I watched. I started watching a show on Hulu called The Resident, which is about doctors in their first year of residency, and kind of all of the behind the scenes of what they do. I think I'm about almost 2 weeks behind on YouTube watching, so I got to get caught up on a lot of that. Because it's just been all about books for me lately. So that's it. I hope you all have a wonderful March, and I will hopefully see you at the end of the month. Thank you so much for joining me. And I would also like to shout out to Anvita. She checked on me yesterday. She sent a comment in one of my previous videos and asked when I was going to be uploading again. And I just want to say thank you for checking on me, and I appreciate you. That was very sweet of you to ask. It made me happy. Thank you for commenting, and thank you for checking up on me. So I enjoy interacting with all your comments, and I do appreciate you guys spending just a little bit of your day with me, and I hope to see you again next time.